1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 demonic machines! Demonic machines! Demonic machines! Live! Saved it.
Oh, wait, the loop's on. Crap. Oh well.
Live! I'm not
Okay.
sure if that played through, but I heard an amazing voice. That's what I heard.
Thank you. Yeah, I now need to adjust the gain on my mic because I turned it the wrong way because it's on the other side. This is not a music mic. This is a podcasting mic.
Well, howdy, y'all.
We're live now. How's
We're
it
live
going?
on episode 16, psychedelic reverberations.
Oh yeah,
We gonna blow your mind.
we're gonna blow your mind. I need to pull up notes because I closed them like an
We
idiot.
need the notes. Remember, people, you can't do a show without the notes.
Don't you gotta, yeah, and just
All right, let me.
I-
While you're pulling up the notes, I'll ham it up real quick. Welcome to Demonic Machines, episode 16, psychedelic reverberations. Approximate duration will be 60 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
So please sit in, get tight, and be comfortable, because you're going to have a great fucking time. And
you're
yes,
gonna have a great fucking time.
I love the Grateful Dead as well, my friends. That's why Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, brother. Decided to wear this shirt rocking down WrestleMania. Oh, we're coming for you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So yeah, the topic for the episode is psychedelic music, and those of you who watch the show know that we take a really freeform approach to our themes, and so we'll talk about what we know of the history of psychedelic music, of the gear that they used,
Oh, yeah.
like where it came from. So like I think we should start by defining what psychedelic music is to us, because psychedelia is not something you can really explain to somebody.
I think the most common mainstream way of describing it is like trip, like something freaky, weird, strange, like the Grateful Dead, Long Strange Trip, things like that. In the popular mindset, I think just naming off a couple bands that are more recent that give the impression based off of their visuals and the way that their music sounds as they describe themselves as psychedelic, like Tame Impala, Flaming Lips, but Flaming Lips aren't necessarily new. They've been around since the 80s, and we'll get into that. There's a lot of other groups that you wouldn't consider to be psychedelic, like in the traditional sense, where there's influences. Like, I don't remember the name of the artist, but there's a hip hop artist that incorporates psychedelic stuff into their music as well. But I can't fucking remember who it is.
There's a whole genre. It's called
yeah.
trip hop.
Oh yeah, see.
Yeah.
Where would we be without Lucky? Surely
I
we
mean-
would be in a worse state of America for sure. Big.
Oh
huge.
my god.
Back to
I'm-
you, Lucky.
So I think you kind of, I get what you're saying as
Yeah.
far as like what psychedelic music is, and I think for me it's sort of like, I don't know, like it's like trying it for me. I don't think I would even have a concept of psychedelic music if I had never done psychedelic drugs.
Understood.
And I think a lot of it is like the music that I started imagining, or that I would imagine while I was under the influence of psychedelics. And like we've talked about, I can't trip anymore because of the antidepressants I'm on or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I still like remember what that's like. And like for me, like one of the main psychedelic bands I think of, like for me, that defines psychedelia
Yeah.
is Acid Bath. I don't know if you've listened to them.
They had an album cover that was a John Wayne Gacy painting, correct?
Yeah.
I think I've heard that album. Or
Yes.
parts of that album. What about like Velvet Acid Christ? Would you consider that psychedelic or
I haven't heard them.
you've never heard of Velvet Acid Christ?
I mean, I guess not.
It's kind of psychedelic now that you mention it, especially their first album. It's like a mix of industrial with like samples and like psychedelic sounds and things going on, and that's a very vague description, but
Mhm.
trust me, just kind of like the Electric Hellfire Club had psychedelic elements, and My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, I believe. But yeah, Acid Bath, I've definitely listened to Acid Bath at least once or twice.
So I want two points
Yes.
about this, Sam. One, acid bath is sludge. Like I will argue that to the death. Acid bath is definitively sludge. They are not doom. Doom is and then the second thing I would say is I don't think that being doom or sludge is mutually exclusive with being psychedelic.
Very true. Psychedelic's kind of like an adjective that you would add onto some things in addition to being its own specific thing as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, psychedelia itself comes from the act of engaging in a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
A lot of people, such as myself, I mean, aside from the one time that I had something that was like somebody had put something in, that was not my decision, though. That was a long We'll talk about that off camera. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that. Now everyone's going to speculate in the comments. But basically, to my knowledge, I've never had a psychedelic experience that I can recall. Through my own means, but the closest that I guess most people would associate it with, because like in popular culture they're like
Weed.
Sure. And
know.
I mean, I think weed has plenty of similarities with psychedelic drugs. I mean, there's
Yeah.
definitely like a thing to psychedelics.
Yeah, there's specifically psychedelics I think are definitely in a class of their own, but yes, they do play nice together, I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never mixed together, so obviously, but
Yeah. Oh, I used to I don't know. Like people talk about like they're always like, "Oh, the Grateful Dead did so much acid." Do you know who did so much? And you know what band did so much acid? My band, The Killer Trees, in like 2006, 2007. We were just so another band I would think of as psychedelic is Sonic Youth.
yes. Oh,
Like
that's a good one. I wouldn't have thought of that.
yeah, like I mean
Wow.
that when when I was in the Killer Trees, that was the kind of stuff we were trying to play, and that was
Okay.
the kind of and that was just like what was coming out while we were in that like psychedelic state.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, the one album that I I borrowed it from a friend, but I don't know where they live anymore, so that's probably it was Sonic Nurse. I think like 2004.
yeah,
That
that's the
was
one that's got bounce to the ounce and make me
I
wanna
think so.
yeah.
That one was interesting. I just remember my friend Ashley telling me a long time ago got me into like industrial and all sorts of different things, like creating your own instruments and what am I getting at? Sonic Youth uses like prepared instruments sometimes in the recording studio. Like they'll have a guitar set up a specific way with like certain strings muted and it like tuned to a different thing. And I don't know how they tour. There's so many different tunings. They gotta have like a million guitars and basses, you know? Or at least when
I
they did actively tour. I'm not sure if they're back together or not. I don't think they are.
I don't think, yeah, because Kim and
They're
Thurston
not.
split
Yeah,
up.
they're
Yeah.
splitzo.
Have you heard any of Kim Gordon's solo stuff though?
Uh, I could have swore that I have, but I don't know any of it by name.
Okay, so there's one song everyone who's watching right now, or I guess watching later, um, it's called Airbnb, and it's by Kim Gordon. And the music video is so great. I just can't even like. and when you first see it, you're gonna be like, "What are you talking? You're crazy, Lucky." But it's great, and you just have to take it in for what it is. But Sonic Youth, from what I have heard, this was actually part of like their creative process, is that they would create these songs with like a guitar that has a screwdriver jammed up under the
Yeah.
strings,
Yeah.
right, or something like that, and they would tour with that. They would play that album that they made,
Okay.
and then they would get rid of all of those instruments, and
It's
they
an
would get
interesting
new
way.
instruments. Yeah, I mean, well, there's like for instance, there is a Sonic Youth sound. Like I can hear, which there's a lot of Sonic Youth out there, and so there are Sonic Youth tracks that I haven't heard before, but
I giggled a little bit because I remember that I had Sonic Nurse, and then I had the like Starbucks greatest hits thing that they put together for Sonic Youth.
they did a Starbucks greatest. That's funny.
It wasn't like sponsored by Starbucks or anything, but it was like I bought it at a Starbucks because I was like there and I got coffee and I was like, "Ooh, Sonic Youth, cool." And it's like a curated collection by their peers and stuff, or people that would be considered their peers. It was an interesting, like I think it covered the entire career basically.
Yeah.
So it was like maybe 10, 15 tracks, something like that, maybe even 20. I don't fucking remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry about that. Just thought it was an interesting tangent to go on. You know, Starbucks and Sonic Youth.
Yeah, and like Sonic Youth is but each album has a different sound to it. In a way that I think other bands don't necessarily have a different sound every album. There are other bands that kind of do it, like Against Me does it. Like Against Me is like a different band every album. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've noticed that.
And Sonic Youth, I mean, I don't think they're really so much a different band. They're using a different palette on each album, you know, whereas a lot of artists will have their signature guitar, right, and their signature like amp setup or signature pedals,
Their particular sound and everything like that.
So when I think of psychedelia, I think of Syd Barrett and early Fleetwood Mac.
Yep, Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac is definitely, I can see that, because I think shortly after the third album, or maybe the second album, he left because there was like, he literally fried his brain doing like LSD or acid or something. And Sid, I think they say, was kind of the same thing, but he also had some sort of psychedelic
He was
stuff.
schizophrenic.
Yeah, I was going to say he had some sort of psych-related stuff, going on as well. But yeah, Cream, I could see that, especially. Sorry about that.
Cream's totally like
Disraeli Gears, right?
In
a dark room where I could. Sorry, I'd sing it if I remembered the words, but I don't want to disrespect it. So,
like, I don't really give a fuck about Eric Clapton, but like, Cream fucks. Like that. Like,
what, Ginger Baker, Eric Clapton, and I can't remember the bass player guy's name.
It was one of the first like super groups.
Yeah, it was definitely, I remember the first time I heard that, it was definitely an interesting sound, because I had only really at that point listened to like Beach Boys and the basic Beatles stuff, none of the cool fancy crazy shit. But
if someone was like, show me some primo 70s psychedelic rock, I would probably get the fucking Silver Cream album. I don't even remember what it's called. But
yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
It's got like I Feel Free on it, and which that's my favorite Cream song. Like, bum 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 bum, I feel free, bum bum bum, and then it like the music starts and it's all like, la, 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 la. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Like,
I got you.
Yeah.
What
I
about
don't know
So one that a lot of people always pull out of the hat is, obviously, we mentioned Syd Barrett. It would be criminal not to mention Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the first album and then the Saucer Full of Secrets, the second album that they did. I think those were very, very in the traditional sense of what psychedelic is, where it was new and exciting and crazy shit. And fuck Jethro Tull. Sorry. I mean, I don't hate them, but
I like Aqualung.
it's good.
Jethro
it's-
Tull. Okay,
I just-
you can say yours first.
I have a beef with it because of them winning the Grammy for metal.
That's exactly my beef. Is Jethro Tull never should have accepted that Grammy.
That would have been like maybe progressive rock or psychedelic rock, even if you want to stretch it, but like fucking metal?
Yeah,
It's
and that
Jethro
was-
Tull.
What came out that year?
Metallica's, I think Load Reload or something came out for that. Yeah, look it
Yeah.
up. Look it up, Sam.
It was 92. I
And yes,
think.
Toll. Pardon my disrespect of the Jethro. Like, excuse me. I just, because of that one thing, it tainted my brain. Jethro Tull is definitely not metal. They are very talented, and they did do a lot of interesting things back in the day. So yes, Michael Krause, very true. If anybody wants, you can look it up.
I like the song Aqualung, and
Yeah.
everything else sounds like some
Aqualung.
guy in tights dancing around in the woods, and like that's just sort of that's not really my
Jethro
jam.
Tull.
Like as far as like early psychedelic rock or
Yeah.
early psychedelic music, my jam would be like Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and the
Jefferson
Doors.
Airplane.
The Doors.
Kinda. The first album, at least.
Surrealistic Pillow is a good album.
Yes.
Um,
Canned Heat. Oh my gosh, I can't see the name Canned Heat without two references. One where the guy sounds like Kermit the Frog. We're going up to the country, the water tastes like wine. And then the other one is Canned Heat, Jamiroquai. You know? Sorry. Pardon me, Michael. I got lost. I got lost in the sauce. You know, as they say, if you ain't got no sauce, you're lost. But you can get lost in the sauce.
yeah.
Doors for sure, yes.
Let's see. I mean, I don't
Going up the country. Yep, Sam.
I just want to really quickly address this comments. I don't mind if someone wants to prance around in tights. It's just not my scene. And I don't want to like be like they're weird. They're fucking weirdos. It's just like I'm trying to express an aesthetic that's like almost Shakespearean, but not quite Shakespearean. But like maybe like I don't know. That's what I imagine. Shakespeare actors.
No.
like,
I feel
in
you on
Jethro
that.
Tull.
I think I agree with that. And Michael, to your point, the Doors are not for everybody. That's an absolute fact.
I did not know that for a long time. I thought everybody loved the Doors.
Oh, that would be a good time to actually play a Doors song if I knew any.
Oh man,
Oh, that's such a fucking bummer. Okay, well,
I
I
had
guess
to-
we'll just have to go back to the rest of the show. Okay.
I had a huge crush on Jim Morrison when I was a teenager too. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
You know, Jim
Like-
Morrison was a handsome young man, and it's a shame what happened.
Oh my
And,
God, he was like 27 now. I'm 35, and so now I think like about the 27 Club. Like
It's
and
dark. It's fucking dark.
They were babies, basically. You know, like.
Yeah.
And then you know, of course, another psychedelic band that no one is going to agree is psychedelic, but I think is psychedelic is the Germs.
I can see it.
Darby
see it.
Crash took so much LSD, and like all of his lyrics, if you read the Germs lyrics, are so bizarre and just
Yeah.
out there. But it does sound like it's like proto-hardcore punk, basically. But at some point, that was an insane thing to think, right? Like, this
Yeah.
sounds good. Da-na-na-na-na.
Here's
Got
a thought for
television.
you. Okay,
Yeah.
so we talked about rudimentary peni before.
Yeah.
Would you argue that the artwork and some of the lyrics that Nick Blanco used with the group could be technically considered psychedelic.
Who? Say that again. Sorry.
Nick Blanco, the lead singer and artist for Rudimentary Peni. I was arguing by the technical standards, the artwork and some of the lyrics could technically be considered psychedelic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think psychedelic is one of those. It's an adjective, and you can apply it to crust punk, right? You can apply it to hell. What's that song by Dystopia? Stress builds character, and
I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Oh, you
gotta send that to me.
Yeah, I will. It's got a bass line in the intro that just sounds like a sewer, and it's like done with like a flanger and like reverb, and like I'm not really sure, but it's super psychedelic. But Dystopia is like a
I'm familiar with the band. I don't think I recognize that song by the title.
Yeah.
And Michael, I think early Genesis with Peter Gabriel could count in some ways. Probably more so the presentation, because I know that Peter Gabriel was a very expressive young lad at the time, wearing all sorts of very strange and interesting outfits on stage.
Yeah.
And the performances. The Lamb Lays Down on Broadway, I think, would probably, in concept, lyrically, and the way it was performed live, would probably fall into psychedelic in that sense. I mean, musically, there's parts that could arguably be considered psychedelic as well, but I think that definitely veers a lot more towards the progressive stuff that they were starting to develop into towards the end of his tenure with the group. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
Because they were a far cry from the group that would come out with Land of Confusion and other stuff at that point.
I can't dance.
Yep.
I can't talk.
The only thing about me is the way I walk.
I fucking love that song.
Perfect Circle, I think, has influences and lyrically could definitely be psychedelic, but musically, there's influences. See, it's hard to define psychedelic sometimes.
Okay, so let's walk it back. What about Tool? Is Tool psychedelic?
I mean, I would argue Tool has done psychedelic shit. Like Lateralis, I think. The artwork is crazy for that. I bought that used without the slipcase, and it was just the CD and the weird fucking, like, multi-layer see-through body dude. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the fuck did I just buy? And it wasn't until I popped in the CD and I listened to it, and I was like, oh, this is just fucking Tool. I was like, I didn't even know what Lateralis was at the time. That's Return of the Giant Hogweed.
I mean, I think we're pursuing this question. I don't think we ever answered, like, what is psychedelic music? I think
you're right. We've kind of just been describing it and giving examples, because I started with the modern examples, what people would think in terms of, like, relatability musically. Like, oh yeah, Tame Impala, Flaming Lips, and much more than that. But that's just...
We should try to each come up with a one-sentence definition, and I'm going to try mine. So mine is music you would come up with on psychedelics.
That is, I think, the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of psychedelics, or psychedelic music. I would say, how can I do this without it being a run-on sentence? So I'm just going to roll with it.
Okay.
And I think that a definition that you could use is music that influences you in a way that affects your psyche and your state of mind, your state of perception, without needing any sort of substance. Because there's some bands that can give you that effect just listening to the music. Like, you just get sucked into the fucking zone, in my opinion. And yeah, Michael, I forgot that was one of the songs on there, so that was my bad.
I wanted to go back to this. I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Roger Waters and David Gilmour both insist that they did not do drugs.
I know that for a fact. I know Roger Waters says that he's never taken any sort of like, other than like, I guess smoking weed or something like
Yeah.
that. David Gilmour, that would be harder for me to call on that one. But yes, I can agree with you. He seems like the type of dude that would be like, oh no, I stayed away from psychedelics when I was younger. I don't know why he's not English, but continue.
I mean, well, I think that goes back to the question of like, I think that questions my definition of what
Yeah.
psychedelic music is.
Music you create when you're under the influence of a psychedelic substance.
Because Pink Floyd is such a definitive like psychedelic rock band.
Yeah.
Like whether they did drugs or not, they will forever be considered a psychedelic rock band. And that's sort of MGMT, yeah, that's like Molly music.
I have a story about MGMT if anybody wants to hear it, and you can argue the validity of this, but I heard this from a semi-reliable source online like a couple years ago when me and my friends were all hanging out listening to it, and we were like, yo, this track Electric Feel is such a fucking jam. And someone was like, I heard that the guys were in the studio and they came up with it as a joke to poke fun at that type of music, and it just fucking took off. So they were like, all right, guess this is what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how true that is. Mind you, this was, like when their first album came out, early internet shit, so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's just sprinkle a little bit of mystery in there. Let's stir it up like Hulk Hogan did in the locker room, Vince. I seen him do it with the bandana and the mustache. Sorry, Jesse Ventura just popped in for a moment.
Oh, that's cool. I like this Michael McFall experimental reverse spring, crazy synth, and long songs that allow you to lose your ego. I can see that like definitely being one of the definitive things. Drug-induced ethereal music creations. Okay, so maybe it's music that has the effect of psychedelics.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
that would give you that feel. Like, would you consider space rock to be like
totally.
a subset of psychedelic, like shoegaze, space rock? I can't remember the last one, but yeah, like that type of stuff. I would feel that stems from the psychedelic like experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, who the fuck is thinking about going to space? Like, people with PhDs and people on drugs. Like, and no one else.
To Major Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to get copyright strikes, so we'll just keep going.
We're not good enough to get copyright strikes.
No one wants to sue us because no one will pursue us, okay? Especially Trump.
No one wants to sue us because like it would be implying that what we did even resembled their work.
And yes, Timothy Leary, definitely. And the LSD tests and stuff. The acid tests, excuse me. I'm going to get flayed for that one, I'm sure. Okay, so I can answer this one because I'm a huge Grateful Dead guy. I can see why you get that. I can definitely see why you feel that because especially later on, like in the late 80s and the 90s before Jerry passed away, they were definitely more in that country roots kind of, well, the country part at the very least, because Jerry was actively playing with his own little country things and doing bluegrass, and Jerry was in a bluegrass background when they started, so yes, I could see that. I would say Working Man's Dead and what the fuck is the one that has what's the one that has Sugar Magnolia on it? American Beauty. Those two in particular, I would definitely say have country feel to them for sure.
I like
Roots. They weren't yes, influenced by it for sure. Yep, New Riders of the Purple Sage. The Jerry Garcia band, obviously, and then there was a bunch of other shit. Jerry was involved. Jerry Jerry is arguably one of the most recorded guitar players in history, especially at this point with all of the live show taping that they used to do in the 70s and 80s. They would encourage people to come and record their own stuff, and they would trade tapes. Well, the archives are still releasing shit this many years after, I mean, you still got Bob Weir up there milking the cash cow with Dead and Co. on their last tour with John Mayer, but he's no Jerry Garcia as far as I'm concerned. Yes, Marty Robbins.
I think is Your Body is a Wonderland? Is that John Mayer?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one John Mayer song I know. I was gonna say what? Okay, I was gonna point out two things. I think it's funny the contrast between what we're wearing, like because I've got my battle vest on, and you're wearing a tie-dye Grateful Dead shirt.
Yeah, I got the little red skeleton dancer guys on it too. I don't know if anybody can see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, well, I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah.
But so John Mayer, not John Mayer. Grateful
I was gonna
Dead.
say I love we're talking about John Mayer now.
So the Grateful Dead, I know a handful of Grateful Dead songs. I really like the album Dead Live.
Yes.
I think the version of Saint Stephen on there is awesome.
Saint Stephen in a row, in and out of the garden he goes.
Yep.
On and on with the wind and the rain.
Wherever he goes, the people all complain.
Yeah.
And then,
sorry.
what is the other song that I really like? Friend of the Devil.
I was just gonna fucking say that too.
Yeah, I know. I heard it coming out of your mouth as I was saying
devilish
it.
friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Dylan. That's one that I don't think a lot of people know. The Grateful Dead and Bob Dylan did an album together.
I didn't know that.
It's Dylan and the Dead, I think, is what it was released under, and they also did a tour where they were the backing band for Bob Dylan. I think. I could be completely wrong about that. Yes, Casey Jones, Uncle John's band, Touch of Grey, all fantastic songs. Now I lost my train of thought. But listen to how cool this vintage, back to the psychedelics, because I'm going to forget to play with this thing unless I do it right now. So this is the part where I play really poorly and show you 70s, kind of psychedelic, I would suppose, instrument as it sounds, just amplified, and we'll just... Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Fuck it. What? Oh my god, that's such a funny video.
All right, throw some chords at me and I'll see if I can play them.
Fuck it, I don't know theory.
All right, let's just hold up. I got this.
B diminished added fourth.
Oh fuck, that's no. Oh, something like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna do. Oh, you know what? I was playing that. I know that's not psychedelic, but this has... I'm going to explain the instrument. So this is a transistor piano. I know you can't see the whole thing. I kind of thought of this at the very beginning, so I fucked that up, so sorry about that. This is back before digital shit and all the modeling and everything and all the synths that people can do now, even before FM synthesis and things like that. All analog. It has 4 voicings, which are essentially a low pass, mid-low pass, mid-high pass, and high pass. Labeled as piano mellow, piano bright, clavichord, and spinet. They don't sound anything like what they're called, so we're going with what I said. It's got built-in phasing, built-in vibrato. I will give you an example of each thing, and then we can move on to something else. But I just wanted to show this off because this was an interesting thing that fell in my lap almost literally. So this is the spinet, the high pass. Yep, very, very Beatlesy. Let's, that's the high mid. This one is a noticeable change. It's the low mid. And I think that might be clipping. If it is, I apologize. And this is the lowest setting. The piano mellow. Is that clipping or is that me?
Yeah, it's clipping.
Let me cut it down. Oh. Oh, my mic's clip. Wait, is my mic clipping or the music's clip? Could anybody
Your
hear
mic
any of
wasn't
that?
clipping.
Could anybody hear any of that? Because
I
just
can hear
realized
all of that.
I
can
didn't
hear
have the
all of it.
volume turned on though.
Well, I heard it.
Interesting. Oof. Okay, it's because I put the boost on. My bad. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, we'll do the effects real quick just so the people can see the kind of cool shit they had built in back then. So
What they were working with and what they were able to do with what they had. Because
Yeah.
I think like nowadays with modelers, doing something that sounds psychedelic, whatever that means,
Yeah.
is a lot easier than it probably was back then.
Oh, well,
right.
especially nowadays, because you could just, at the snap of your finger, you can have a plugin that has flanging, modulation, and any variety that you would want, including flanging, different, like you could mirror things, you could make a rotary effect, vibrato, chorus. Yeah.
ChatGPT can probably play Jimi Hendrix. Like,
Probably at this point, yeah.
Yeah, like I've asked ChatGPT to write riffs for me, and it's given me tabs.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, like it's kind of impressive. I was gonna say impressive.
I'm only saying scary in the sense because I don't want people to. I feel like some people could become completely reliant on it and not use it as a tool, but use it as the entire creation. You know,
that's what'll happen as long as we allow billionaires to make all the decisions about things because they'll want to replace workers.
Yeah. Oh, it's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheaper. Well, I guess arguably it would be cheaper, but yes. And yes, Sam, you should do a live riff off with ChatGPT. That's a fantastic idea. I'm going to star that because that's cool. I think that's something cool. Do you want me to show you the vibrato or the phaser first?
I want to hear. I just like vibrato. So do vibrato.
We'll do a deep vibrato at a slow speed for Lucky. Lucky loves this. All right, let's do the same like Beatlesy sounding. It's like you took the wrong shit and you're just sitting there and you're walking down the street getting ready to go to work. It's like, I think I took the wrong medicine before I left my house today. But it's gonna be good still. Oh no, it's getting minor key. What are we gonna do? So that's max depth. Partial speed, but if we could crank this to fucking phaser like there you go, just like that. Or wait, it sounds better with a okay, now we'll go to the phaser, full depth, quarter speed. Let's see. This is kind of like you just took a shower and you still got soap in your ears. Like, I really wish that I rinsed my hair better. Looks like we lost Lucky, so I will stop with the obnoxious, goofy shit. Well, we'll do the full phaser real quick. There you go. That's a nice one. All right. Yeah, sometimes I come up with some fun little goofy shit. I don't know, personally, I've had a lot of writer's block lately, so I haven't. And there we go. I think Lucky's back.
Yeah, so all I was doing was trying to turn off my camera.
You're good.
And I thought it would show like an avatar of me or something when I turned off the camera.
Yeah.
And instead it just like looked like I dropped from the thing, but like I was just doing something that I don't want to do on YouTube, I guess.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, Michael, you should pull out your drunken monkey and play with it. There's some fun shit. I was actually going to say, does anybody want to hear how this sounds with a demonic machine? Because I have my cow killer on this board, and I would like to show people that it can get. I mean, this time I'm not going to fiddle with the settings. I already mentioned to Lucky earlier. I dialed it in the way I want it for my bass with my band, so I don't want to fuck that up. But oof, let me turn that down. Turn the boost off.
So the Cow Killer, I want to.
You're good.
Oh, I was just gonna say the Cow Killer is based on a Big Muff. It's rumored that Jimi Hendrix bought a Big Muff shortly before he died, but there are no known recordings of Jimi Hendrix playing a Big Muff. However, this was at the height of psychedelic rock, so the Big Muff is probably a type of pedal that would have been used by a lot of psychedelic rock bands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's some bands that like that's their sound.
Mm-hmm.
Is just like okay, so this is a good segue to the late 80s, early 90s Smashing Pumpkins. In a very much psychedelic vein. I think I would argue the first Smashing Pumpkins album, the one with I Am One and all the other fun ones on there. I would argue that album has a lot of psychedelic influences, especially the way that Billy was playing solos and using phasers and all sorts of crazy shit on there as well. But yeah, I think Siamese Dream is pretty much the op amp Big Muff Fuzz. Like that's the tone. Like that through a certain amp, which I can't remember. But
And
yeah.
tons of tracks, right? Like didn't he do just like so many guitar tracks?
Oh yeah, that album has like some songs had over 100 layers of the same guitar parts played.
Yeah.
To thicken the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Fun fact, real quick, just to throw this in. Oasis did the same thing on their Be Here Now album, layered a bunch of guitars to the point where you can't hear the bass. Listen to that album and tell me you can find bass. Send an email to Lucky, prove it, and I'll write you a song.
I love that that's like our giveaway.
Yeah, if anyone I mean, you heard I can write better than the goofy shit. I just play goofy shit on the piano because it's more fun that way.
Also, we're talking about psychedelic music. And
psychedelic music.
As someone who's done psychedelics, it's very goofy unless you're having a bad trip.
Well, yeah.
If you're having a bad trip, then it's like sludge metal. But if you're having a good trip, it's like I'm walking down the street. And the sun is shining and all that fun stuff.
Here, we'll try to do a psychedelic song. I'll throw the phaser on into the Cow Killer, and we'll see if we can come up with. We're gonna use the dad chord sequence. We're gonna go DAD because it's fun. It's lots of good times, and we're gonna enjoy it. All right. So here we go. Whoop, got an accidental G, but we'll just roll with it. Is that too quiet now? Oh, I don't have the Cow Killer on.
No, I can hear it.
The Cow Killer was not on. Here we go. Yeah, I didn't have anything prepared, so obviously it's gonna sound like shit, but just as an example, so you can get a sound example. And if you don't have a bass player and you have a keyboard, you could buy the Cow Killer and you could put it with your keyboard and no one will be able to tell that this is not a really, really crunchy bass.
You know what psychedelic rock band didn't have a bass player, but instead had a keyboard player?
The Doors.
The Doors. Everyone's favorite.
Oh, yeah. It was, so, if I'm not... Oh, fuck, I'm dropping everything. So, if I'm not mistaken, and let me turn this off now. So in the studio, they had a bass player for the album sessions, but live, they didn't have bass. He just played the little bass piano. But he also tracked another layer of the bass piano in addition to the bass guitar and just had it set in a certain way in the studio that it complemented each other and people couldn't really tell the difference. Because I think... I don't remember why they didn't want to have a bass player. I think it was just because it was cheaper to just do it himself. You know,
yeah,
he could play it all live, so why not?
Yeah, and Ray Manzarek, the keyboardist in the Doors, the organist, I guess.
Yeah.
He, a lot of people don't know, he was producer on X's first 4 albums, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah, like so Ray Manzarek, direct line from the Doors to the LA punk rock scene, early LA punk rock scene.
That's pretty cool.
I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Learn something new every time.
But let's see. Emerson, Lake and Palmer is one of my favorites. No guitar player, but did have a bass player. Hell yeah. I mean, I was in a band that was just me playing a 5-string bass through a big muff and a insane metal drummer. Like, and it was a ton of fun. It's a clon into a muff with diode clipping and toggle order, so you can go muff into clon. I can't wait for the prototype.
Oh, you're asking for a joke saying it like that. You can go muff into the clon.
Yeah, I mean, that's sex.
Yes, that is the sexy sex.
I had to point
Nice.
that out. In case.
Nice.
So did you say that you set up the Spotify for the podcast, or you were in the process of setting that up?
It's, if you search Demonic Machines Live, it's there.
Okay.
And so it doesn't broadcast live on Spotify,
but we can put the episodes up afterwards as audio.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can put them up as video if we want. It's just it's Spotify, and
people are mainly going to be.
Yeah, and then that's sort of like what are we doing visually in this podcast? You know, really, like occasionally we reference something happening on the screen, but for the most part, it's just us talking. So I think audio works anyway. We can talk about that later.
I just wanted to mention, I was going to say, for those listening at home, I hope that the level of my Armin super piano wasn't too bad, because I have a really fucked up headset setting thing where I can't really hear how loud everything is. So I'm kind of just guesstimating. But yeah.
So
I would love a martini cat as well. Everybody in the chat talking about
does everyone see the martini cat?
Michael and Sam both were.
Yeah,
there's a martini cat.
Yeah. So the martini cat, this is based on a Univibe circuit, which is a very distinct kind of phaser. So for instance, the MXR Phase 90, it uses JFETs to create its phasing effect, which is a type of transistor. Univibe uses an incandescent light bulb surrounded by light-dependent resistors to create the phasing effect. So
it makes it cooler.
It makes it cool. Well, so yes, it makes it cooler. It makes it warmer. It rounds out a lot of like the sharp edges of it's got a really complex LFO too. There's like 16 different waveforms you can select from.
16.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I tricked it out, but it's based on a Univibe, and I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I want to say Jimi Hendrix popularized Univibe.
Yes, I believe Jimi Hendrix definitely, when people talk about Univibe, that's one of the first names I think of for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm thinking about is like it's not a very often repeated effect, and I mean I think as a builder I kind of know why. It's expensive. It's a complicated circuit, like it's a needlessly complicated circuit that you can accomplish the same thing with a much simpler setup, right? But it's also I mean, we've talked about it before. Guitarists like old shit, you know? Like, so, I mean, that's like how they did phasing when they
Yeah.
first did phasing. And so, but like, most people don't use specifically a univibe, like a Shinai univibe. And
Yeah.
like, this is a pedal that I hate right here. It is the MXR M68 univibe. It is painted to look like it's modeled after the Shinai
Yes.
univibe, but it is literally just a phase 90 with one resistor missing.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And also
Extra knobs,
two
right?
extra knobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Shameless.
basically a phase 90, and I hate the phase 90. Sorry for anybody who loves the phase 90, and I fucking hate the MXR M68 univibe. And that's not shitting on MXR in general. Like, MXR is fine.
Yeah.
MXR, let's see, what was there? Let's talk about, like, so there was Shinai, right, that
Yeah.
was doing early modulation, I guess, is, well, I don't know. There's been modulation for a long time.
I was gonna
But, like,
say, DOD had some early modulation as well with like the big fucking wall plug that was connected to the pedal and stuff like that. Like that was probably closer to 70s though.
yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to. I think what I'm trying to synthesize in my mind right this second is
Yeah.
We have now, I think, finally addressed like sort of the origins of like what's considered psychedelic music. I think we took a very roundabout way when we were talking about it, but
Why not, though?
we did talk about it, and the origins are really in like the mid to late 60s, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm wanting to think like what was psychedelic, what were the freaks making in the 70s then, you know? And is that psychedelic, you know? Is it prog rock? Is it stuff like Yes and like
You
Pink
know,
Floyd?
But
And
the question has to be, if the band started in the 60s with psychedelic and then continued their career and evolved, does that count as being influenced by it since they were part of the movement? Also, real quick, Michael Krause, the Distortion Plus was, if I'm not mistaken, just a Ross distortion with germanium clipping. That's what the MXR Plus distortion.
MXR Distortion Plus and DOD 250.
Yeah, those isn't that essentially just the Ross distortion?
Probably.
I think Josh did an episode about it.
I mean, I'm sure he did. Like, but yeah. So at least the DOD 250 and the Distortion Plus are basically the same circuit, except one has germanium, one has silicone clipping.
Yeah. And the Rat is awesome as well.
But
Rat you should get a Fishbones because that is even better than a Rat.
Yeah, Fishbones right here. It's the Fishbones,
formerly known as the Alaborith. If anybody's a longtime fan of Demonic Machines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I Josh Scott one day on one of his videos was like, if people can't remember the name of your product, they're not going to be able to buy it. And I was just like, fuck. And so I changed it to Fishbones, which is, if you want to know, the story behind it is that the demon Alaborith is a demon whose power is specifically to make you choke on fish bones. And so that's why I call it the fish bones.
That's some petty shit.
I know, like a whole ass demon for that.
Just for fish bones.
Yeah, and I just thought it was a good name for a distortion. But fun thing about the Rat and the Distortion Plus / DOD 250.
Yes.
If you take away the JFET output buffer and you take away the filter, you will notice that what you have, and then you take away one, because they have the two capacitors running and resistors running in parallel on the feedback loop or whatever, but they take that out. You're left with a distortion plus. A rat is basically just a tricked out distortion plus, like tricked out for the time.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and like it's a good pedal. The Alaborith is a fantastic pedal. I mean,
did Kurt Cobain use a rat, or that was a distortion? A
he
DS1.
used a DS1 and then a DS2 later.
Huh.
I
don't know.
And the DS2 has a DS1 mode.
Who am I thinking of for the rat in the 90s? That like rat was like the tone for the fuck. Sorry, tangent. You're good.
You're good. It. Rat. I mean, how about the rat? What psychedelic music has used the rat? Like,
I think it would be easier to say what bands. Well,
what bands haven't used a rat?
Yeah,
actually, because like, I was just thinking about it. I made a custom pedal for a guy in the UK, and it was a germanium fuzz face and a rat in one box, and it was because I don't even remember the dude's name, but the guitarist for Portishead, he said that was the combo he used for the song Glory Box. And so I made a pedal called the Glory Box, and it was a rat and fuzz face. And so, and I would say Portishead is trip hop. So, I mean, Portishead is definitely like psychedelic, but that's like 90s psychedelic music. So, I don't know.
Yeah, see, because it gets confusing to a point.
Yeah, well, it's like everything in that it gets, as it gains popularity, it becomes more mainstream, right? And then like aspects of it change. Right, like the club kids, like it's so originally it was like Burroughs and Ginsberg and Kesey and what's the guy, Tom Wolfe, that were, not musicians who were taking psychedelics, and it was like for these like transcendental, like mind expanding. Timothy Leary, I can't believe I forgot him.
No, we mentioned Timothy Leary at the very beginning, though. So to be fair, we did mention.
Yeah, and like. So like psychedelic culture, I think it was initially like about expanding your mind, whatever the fuck that means, I
think it was also very much in rebellion to what was going on at the time with the whole 50s nuclear family and everything, where it felt like every single person had to be fit into this prefabricated, like, this is what life is, go for it. And that in the 60s, I think, with the expansion of their minds using those substances, they were able to see through the walls and start to climb outward. And that's pretty much the beginning of where we are today, more or less, I feel.
Well, I guess what I was thinking about is that the culture shifted.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, it wasn't like intellectuals who were taking mushrooms or acid, right? It was like the stoner kid that I went to school with, or it was like ravers or like whatever, and like it was like LSD and mushrooms and stuff became these like party drugs instead, which probably started in the 60s with the hippies, but like definitely reached this critical point, I think, in the 90s with rave culture.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting conversation that could be had, is that rave music is psychedelic music, right? I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's so far from like...
From what you would think when someone says psychedelic music, you think, oh, it's like the Hollies or the Beatles or this or that. And it's like, no, this is like, fuck you. Right in the brain.
Or dubstep.
See, so this is where I think that the conversation would shift if you had like gatekeepers. Because they'd be like, oh no, you have to keep it strictly with a keyboard, with a phaser, and a rotary, a univibe on the guitar, maybe a fuzz phaser too, and who needs a bass player? Just have the keyboard player do it. I don't know
Yeah,
what the point of that was, but it was fun to do,
that,
and I appreciate you listening to.
I think that like some people get stuck in like one period of like what psychedelic music
Good
is.
night, Sam. Good
Yeah.
night, Sam. Have yourself a nice sleepy time.
Right, sir.
Jesse Ventura will be there when you wake up.
And also, whoever I'm doing the voice of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Um,
didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, it's cool. Like I mean, at this point, I feel like we're just kind of like bullshitting and stuff. Like we have fulfilled our 1 hour thing, and we can keep going if we want. Like
Yeah.
this is a fun conversation, but I think so. Yeah, there are. I think gatekeepers of psychedelic music where it's like no, psychedelic music is the Beatles. Like, no, psychedelic music is the Doors. No, psychedelic music is the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
You know, it's like psychedelic music can't be. What was I gonna call? I was gonna call him Squirt. What the fuck is his name? Skrillex. Uh,
you
you
know,
know,
I could see Skrillex in an alternate in the timeline where they didn't. No, because Skrillex came out before the Harambe thing. I was gonna say before the timeline split when Harambe got killed, it would have been Squirt instead of Skrillex. But
well, he's a constant. He's a universal constant.
yeah, yeah.
And
This
Skrillex.
it's a great
Th-
conversation. Skrillex
Hold
and the
on.
Harambe theory.
No, this is getting psychedelic in a really meta way. This is the kind of conversations people have on mushrooms.
This is a normal everyday work conversation. My friend and I talk about how there's a time paradox from where Harambe got shot in an alternate dimension. He didn't get shot, and they just grabbed the kid out of there because Harambe was trying to save the kid. But we're in the downfall timeline where humanity was like, no, fuck this gorilla. We gotta light him up. He's near a kid instead of, and like, it's a tricky conversation to have because it's like, okay, well, some people are like, you should have shot the damn kid. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, so he deserved it. And then people are like, oh, no, absolutely, they did the right thing. But yeah, no, talking about like timeline splits and alternate dimensions and all sorts of shit, like that's just an everyday thing for me. But I completely understand what you're saying to the layman or layman, etc., whichever.
Yeah.
It would be considered a psychedelic conversation or like wormholes. There's a bunch of stories and things that we could reference that people could look into. Like, even wouldn't you consider like aliens or UFOs to be in some sorts of ways psychedelic?
Let me answer that question with a question.
Oh gosh, we're going down the hole. White rabbit.
What types of creatures are on the posters and head shops?
Oh, like the Grateful Dead bears, right?
Well, sure. That's
Like the little
that's
marching-
among them.
Like fairies. I've seen various types of fairy depictions or
Think blacklight posters.
blacklight posters. We're not talking about like the frog ones, right?
I mean, maybe the frog ones. I don't know, but no, I like aliens.
Well, yeah.
Aliens are totally like.
Oh, you said
heavily-
creatures, and I was thinking animals.
Oh, see, I mean, when I say creatures, I mean life.
You see things that breathe.
Yeah, in some things that are motile. That's
Lionel Richie was psychedelic at some point. There's no way, Michael.
I mean, I believe it.
I mean, maybe. What wasn't he in like a soul R&B vocal troupe of dudes at one point, and then he split off and did his own thing in the 80s?
I don't know.
Is it me you're looking for?
Lionel Richie was dancing on the ceiling, right?
Yep.
So, fun story about that song. My dad was in the army, and so we always had like weird army gear around the house. And one of the things we had was this like strobe light that I guess was used when they need a strobe light in the army. I don't fucking know what the point, its practical application would be. But what we did is we would set it up in the room where my parents had the record player, and they had the Lionel Richie record that had Dancing on the Ceiling. and we would turn on the strobe light, and then we would put the record. It was a 33.
Oh
It was a
gosh.
33 record, and we would put it on 45, and then just like have the craziest dance parties.
Oh
No,
what
no,
would
no,
it be
no.
like?
Other way. Other way.
My bad.
Oh, what a feeling! We're gonna be dancing on the ceiling.
See, you mentioned sludge earlier, and I have you heard of the Chipmunks on Speed 16?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, that's a doom band right there. Like,
I was saying to my friend, I'm like, if you pick the right song and you grab a record of it and you play it at the wrong speed, like a slower speed, like if it's a 45 and you play it at a 33, you're gonna get some wild shit. Just like the opposite if you're playing 33 at 45. But it's harder to. I think it's harder to get. I don't know. A lot of the records I had were 33 RPM, so I guess I'm just basic. You
oh
know
no,
what?
I mean,
I live in the Baja now. I don't live in the continental United States anymore.
I feel like, I mean, I think the conversation about records is for another time. What I will say real quick is polyvinyl chloride is poisonous, and that's what records are made out of.
Yes.
And you can interpret that however you want. You can do research about that. I'm not gonna say people should stop collecting records because I have a huge record collection, and I would be a hypocrite to say like people should stop collecting records.
Just handle them with gloves if you're that concerned.
Handle them with gloves. Wear a fucking filter mask.
Yeah. Because
yeah,
the little bits that it'll be scraping off from the needle are gonna be in the air.
Mm-hmm. This so we are talking about it. So do you know Ben
Records,
Jordan?
music you can inhale.
Right? So there's this one YouTuber, and he had some kind of air quality tester, and it actually like tested for the carcinogens that PVC produces. And he sat in a room with this sensor while a record played, and it got up to like you should be wearing protection levels.
Oh shit, you know what I just realized? So excuse me, I don't know what the fuck that was. So I have an old Zenith combination record player back at my folks' house with all my records and stuff. And I noticed a lot of the older record players would come with a plastic cover that like you would fold it up, put your record on, and then close the cover, and it would play the music through the speakers. Maybe that's why there was a plastic cover on the record players, because they thought about that. But people are just like, no, I want to be able to hear it straight from the vinyl. And then they lift it up and they're like, yes, I am inhaling Black Sabbath original pressing.
I mean, it does have vinyl does have a smell, and like record stores have a smell.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like
Absolutely.
it's. I mean, I guess I would equate it to cigarettes. Like, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
If it can be a comfort thing for people. Yeah, I mean, something's gonna kill you one day. Like, and it might be cancer that you got from listening to too many records.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, unless you're like spending 23 hours a day sitting in a room less than 4 feet away from a record player as it's playing, I wouldn't worry. Or if you work at a DJ, or you're a DJ and you still use records, which I think some of them do.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of like how I build analog circuits, even though like everyone has modelers now, you know, like it's an art form that people will continue to do. And I think DJing is one of those things. I had a friend who was a musician. He played like in metal bands, but he was also a DJ, like a actual DJ, not like a party DJ where he just plays songs, you know? And he taught me how to use digital turntables. And then I remember he offered to me one night to come over because he had like actual turntables and like a collection of records that we could use. And he said he would teach me how to scratch, and I never fucking took him up on it.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I'm putting my keyboard cover on. It's like a big fucking hunk of metal that just latches in.
Mm.
And I'm gonna move my dinner from in view to out of view.
The state of California says everything causes cancer. That is
'Cause-
true.
'cause it
Proposition
does.
65.
Everything causes cancer. Welcome to America. Wi-Fi causes cancer. Bluetooth causes cancer. Drinking coffee causes cancer. Fucking plastic water bottles cause cancer. Like, come on. Everything causes... We are a cancer society. That is an American thing. Okay.
Some people think that breathing oxygen is actually poisonous. It just takes 70 or 80 years to kill us.
I mean, okay, that's a whole nother episode we could have where we talk about every breath you take slowly kills you, because it's true. If you were breathing in 100% oxygen, you would probably die at some point, sooner than later. But 100% oxygen. See, and this was a discussion I got into with this old like herbalist dude that I used to work with at the gas station. I think he was just on drugs, but either way, he had interesting points. He was like, I promise I'm trying not to do the Donald Trump or the Jesse Ventura voices, but those are the two I've been doing lately.
Back in Vietnam, they told me that if you have antioxidants, the oxygen won't kill you as fast.
That was one of the things he told me. He's like, that's why everything with antioxidants is like such a big deal. It's like, drink this tea, take this supplement, rub this on your face, wipe your ass with that. I don't think the last one had anything to do with it, but he was very excited, and he was like on a roll, so I let him roll with it. But yeah, I mean, do you prescribe to that thought where antioxidants are beneficial because of oxygen's oxidating nature? I mean, we're not robots, so we don't corrode, but yes,
I'm not a chemist or a biologist, so I'm not in a position to speculate. And
that's a good decision to make there.
I just muted myself, but I'm unmuted now. But yeah, like that's just, I think somewhere, because I definitely didn't learn it from my family, but like I think just from like spending 10 years in higher learning, I have learned to just sort of do whatever I was about to talk about, and I just lost my train of fucking thought. What the fuck? I think oxygen is the purest, at its purest form, is bad. I mean,
see, I
said, I'm not I mean, if you were a biologist or a chemist, I would be interested to hear why you think that. I mean, if you're not a biologist.
Well, I remember taking like biolab and stuff when I was in college, and that was like one of the things they talked about, but there was no like lesson on it. It was like just the discussion. And yeah, it is certainly flammable. Yeah, I could see that. What I was going to say is, why don't we each give 5 songs that we think would represent psychedelic to the audience if they want to look into it? Or, here's a thought. You could make a Spotify playlist with some of the songs, and people can listen to it, and then you could be like, check out our Demonic Machine psychedelic hand-picked playlist.
Yeah.
And we could put a link to it in. You have a link in bio thing, right? I do.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to check it out, it'll be 10 songs. We could try to go over it now, or we could come up with it and then post it. But we could
let's
brainstorm.
just come up with it right now, and then like we'll add those, and then maybe some more. We'll just have like a psychedelic music playlist, and it'll be like.
How about this? Every week we pick at least 10 songs for people to listen to from our personal selections
that relates to the theme.
Yes.
So yeah,
that could be exciting.
Yeah.
Give people something to look into. We could just put up the list of the songs as well if people don't use Spotify. That way you can look it up. Or
I'll put it in the info for this video.
Yes, that's what we could try to do. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
See, you got a new segment, 15 minutes past when we're normally done, so everyone's excited now.
Yeah.
Everyone being the two people and you and I.
Yeah. Oh, Inagata Davida is definitely that's a good Spotify song. Hold on, I'm gonna stop looking at the comments though.
Yes.
Not because I don't want to know what y'all think.
Because
Well,
you
it
gotta-
is because I don't want to know what y'all think.
You got to think about it. Yeah, because I was going to say that's
Like,
going to influence our picks. Okay, how about this? How about this? Things that wouldn't be like common knowledge in terms of like Inagata Davida or fucking early Pink Floyd or something. Like, pick something that's not like a traditional, everybody would think it's psychedelic. Like something.
I'm on. I'm
You
on
know what I
this.
mean?
Yeah, I'm on this.
Like, pick something like I think. Okay, so let me look the song up, but first let me throw the name out there for you, and you tell me if you agree. Scratch Acid.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
that's nightmare acid. That's a nightmare trip.
but it's psychedelic though.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Like
We just got to pick the song. I was gonna say because I had the Scratch Acid greatest hits, and the first song would always like fuck with me, and I'd be like, "What the fuck am I listening to?" Let me see.
I
Fuck,
got
and
one.
while we're doing that, yeah.
I got one.
Oh, the greatest gift is what I had, not greatest hits. Excuse me. Yeah, it was Cannibal. Cannibal was fucking. Whew.
Cannibal.
So, you want to put that on there? That could be my pick. One of my picks.
Hold on. I'm gonna make a. I'll make a list.
Alright.
Create a new playlist. Oh man, Spotify has gotten more complex.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've been noticing with a lot more of the sites is they keep trying to make things too complicated.
Okay, so the first song is Taobabo Kumi by Acid Bath.
Okay.
It's literally a title they made up while they were on acid. So I added that to the playlist. Now yours was Scratch Acid. What was it?
Cannibal.
Okay, Cannibal.
Ooh, this is fun. I got another one, I think, already. A lot of my stuff, I think, is probably going to end up being, like, from the industrial scene.
Yeah,
of.
I mean, and that's totally valid. Mine's going to be, like, oh, I don't know, like noise rock, mostly, probably.
There will be a crossover. I feel there will be enough of a crossover of what we're picking for the playlist to be cohesive at the very least.
Let's see.
Oh, okay. So, Pigface. You know Pigface, right?
Pigface?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kiss King off of their A New High and Low. So the song is Kiss King and in parentheses High High High. It's got like this weird sampled loop of a fucking sitar playing something over like a trip hop kind of drum beat, and this chick singing, and there's like chanting and shit going on. If you've never heard it, that's why I want to put it on there, because I think it's a good depiction of what people would think sound wise, because of it's kind of like, oh, there's a sitar and it's got weird shit going on in the background and this and that. I think that would be a good one. I'm listening for your second one.
My second one, Purple Pills by D12.
Yes. Oh man, I take a couple uppers, I drop
a couple downers,
Yo,
but
God.
nothing compares to these blue and yellow purple pills.
That's a fucking left field one. Holy shit, I would not have expected that.
Yep. Okay, your turn.
Okay. So this one, I don't know if you're going to agree, but if you look it up, if you're not familiar with it, when you see the artwork, you'll agree. Praxis is the group, and the song is The Interworld and the New Innocence.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that? Have you heard of them before?
Nope.
It's a super group with Bootsy Collins, Bill Laswell, Brian Manchia. I can't. The keyboard
What's the song
player
called?
The song is called The Interworld and the New Innocence.
Interworld and the New Innocence.
Oh yeah, Bernie Worrell and Bootsy Collins from Parliament Funkadelic are in it. You got Buckethead, Brian Mantia, who was in Primus, and I can't remember the other group he was in, and then Bill Laswell producing. It's this crazy super group. This is one of the more like chill songs, but it has elements that I would consider psychedelic, and with people in the band from Parliament, come on, that's some crazy shit. But if anybody likes that song, feel free to look into any other Praxis stuff, except for the Mold EP. That one doesn't have the same lineup. But continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So I was gonna say for my next one, I really had trouble picking which song off of this album.
Yeah.
It was gonna be, but I decided to go with the hit. So, but know that if you're like, oh, this is too poppy or whatever, there's like some more.
Yeah.
It's off of the album Relationship of Command. It's At the Drive-In, One-Armed Sizzler.
At the Drive-In, yeah.
Yeah, like that is absolutely in my mind psychedelic music.
So since you said At the Drive-In, I'm not going to pick Mars Volta because we already have Cedric and Omar on the list. Just because a lot of people I think would automatically, because of what the Mars Volta has done in the past, would think psychedelic. I was going to suggest a Residents song, but I think it might be a little jarring.
Jarring in what way?
Jarring in that it would be like such a fucking departure from any of the other stuff I've suggested already that I think it might just be weird more than psychedelic.
That's what psychedelia is. It's weird.
Well, I talk about the Residents a lot, so I'll pick something other than the Residents.
Okay.
What's a good one? Oh, okay. So, Paul Barker from Ministry, he's got a solo project called Lead into Gold.
Okay.
I'd say look that up on Spotify and see what albums they actually have on there, because I don't know if all of their stuff is on Spotify. That's going to determine the track I pick, because...
What's the song you're thinking about?
Which one?
It looks like everything.
I was going to say The Sea, The Sun, The Past, The Sum.
Okay.
But I don't
It's on
know.
here.
Okay, yeah, let's put it on there then, because actually, yeah, we'll put it on there.
So
that one might be a little closer musically to just like industrial, like stuff like that, but a lot of the stuff, like there's like a soundscape I feel it creates that psychedelic effect listening to it.
Yeah,
I would say. So what's that bring me to 4, and you're picking your 4th now, or are we both at 3?
I think we're both at 4.
Okay.
I'll check in a second.
All right.
Add to playlist, psychedelic music. Okay, my next one is Locust Star by Neurosis.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
How could we not?
Yeah, I just remember, and I think about there's this documentary on the Gilman Street punk scene, and Neurosis was part of that. And when they're introducing,
they started out as punk. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, but they were talking about Neurosis becoming more than punk, right?
Yeah.
And dude, I forget his name. He was like, it was just a lot of acid, you know. And I think that's like, and it's very psychedelic metal, I think. And it uses a lot of like psychedelic effects. So that puts us both at
I think it's 4
8
each.
Yeah, so we've got 2 more.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to dip back into the Paul Barker well, but in his collaboration with Al Jurgensen.
You mean Ministry?
Yes. I'm glad you said that. You're like, wouldn't you have just led with Ministry? Well, I needed to segue so people could see the wave between the two. Paul Barker was the bass player for Ministry for like the majority of its existence, but he did not found it, and he is no longer a member and hasn't been since 2004, maybe 2003.
Okay.
This would come off of their 1998 album.
Okay.
The Dark Side of the Spoon is the name of the album. It's a parody of The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink
Is it
Floyd.
about heroin?
That particular title is because Al titled it, I think, after they recorded the album, and he was like super, super out of it on that. But this particular song, it fits that definition of psychedelic, in my opinion.
I mean, I'll tell you, as someone who has done heroin, heroin is 100% psychedelic.
Yes.
Like, just in a very different way.
Yeah.
What's the song?
Whip and Chain.
Whip and Chain. Ooh,
Yes.
that reminds me of what my number 5 is gonna be. And my number 5 is Venus in Furs by the Velvet Underground.
Yep. Oh man.
Yeah.
That one, that really is too. See, and the first song I ever heard by them was that song, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I want to hear the rest of it. And then like somebody showed me I'm waiting for the man, and like,
And you
one
weren't
of the
ready
other-
for it.
And I was like, where's all the cool weird shit? And then someone was like, oh well, there's another one on there that starts with the violin. Oh, what the fuck is the song title? Either
Black
way,
Angel's Death Song.
yes, that's the one.
Yeah. No,
That's
I
a
know
good
my
one, too.
I know my Velvet Underground. I'm not so hip to Lou Reed, but like
Well, Lou Reed was he had some questionable choices in his lyrics and things that he did here and there, and I don't think that he meant to be what it came across as, but it's Lou Reed, so it's very likely he was on drugs. So, I mean, that's not an excuse, but it's an acknowledgement that Lou Reed has probably done and said some fucked up shit because, you know, we've all made mistakes in our lives.
he is also, I know he's done fucked up things as well, but
Yeah.
there's an interview with him that I
Yeah.
absolutely love
Which one?
where it's this guy is like, in your songs you talk about taking heroin and amphetamines. Do you do these drugs? And
Yeah.
he's like, no. You know, and he's got on like sunglasses.
And he's like sweating a fucking storm.
Yeah, and he's like, do you think that other people should do these substances? And he goes, oh yeah, absolutely. And
That's a Lou Reed
I
thing
was
to
like, fuck
Oh,
yeah, dude.
Gosh.
Like, but anyway, we are almost 30 minutes over time, so I'm gonna end this broadcast.
Bonus episode for y'all.
Yeah.
Wait. As fucked up as the Metallica collaboration? No. We don't talk about Lulu here, okay? We don't mention Lulu. We don't say I am the table. We don't bring any of those memes in here, and I will tell you why. And I'm gonna explain it for you. That's Lars's fault, okay? Lou Reed approached Metallica after their performance at, I guess it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever the fuck. And he was like, hey, you know, I have some songs that I wrote that I wanted to do with you guys as my band. And I was pretty sure that he had already recorded like actual demos with music and shit for these songs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Michael, it's okay. I'm just busting your balls, proverbially, of course. Metaphorically? Metaphorically, I meant. Excuse me.
It's whatever. It remains the same.
But basically, Lars is like, oh, yeah, man, you know, we can do that. It's like, we're going to do the Metallica thing. I don't know why he's Irish now, but it's like, you know, he's like, we're going to do the Metallica thing and you do the Lou Reed thing. And they showed up in the studio and Metallica went in and they were fucking around and Lou was like, all right, that's it. And they're like, that's it, like, we're good for the day? Or like, he's like, no, that's it. Like, I got what I need. And then he did his Lou Reed thing on top of it. And somebody sent me a meme where it was the picture of Grandpa Simpson yelling at a cloud, and they were like, this is the equivalent of that album to me right now. And I had to mention that because I was expecting much better things from that, and unfortunately it panned out the way that it did. It was an interesting experience. I would argue the last 2 songs on that collection, on the second disc, represent what the whole fucking album should have been, which was just Metallica playing interesting, weird, not Metallica style instrumentals with Lou Reed reading poetry and singing over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we got the singles that sound like a Metallica song from fucking Master of Puppets if they were super drunk and they never rehearsed the songs live, and Lou Reed yelling over top of them poetry, and one of the songs he's saying some very, very unsurly things that I can't say because the songs were written in a very different time period. And I'm just like,
Lulu?
yes.
That was not that long ago, though.
2011.
Yeah,
That was
well, okay.
over 10 years ago.
That was over 10 years ago, and a lot has
That was
changed.
over a decade ago, excuse me. I was told to use buzzwords in the podcast so that when people listen, they think we're like more professional than we are. They're over a decade ago, you know, that great, magnificent piece of garbage came out.
Definitely professional, though.
We are definitively the most professional of them all.
We're the most professional podcast in America.
I have words and they are bigly huge. Trust me.
They're bigly huge.
Bigly huge.
Biggest whatever podcast in America.
Biggest podcast in America. Go ahead, show me yours. I've already shown you mine.
Yeah, this podcast is huge. You would not believe the resolution of these videos.
Oh, for real. And I'm sure it's like incredible.
4K? Don't make me laugh.
8K.
8K.
But yeah, I think that rounds off the playlist pretty much.
Yeah. We'll put the link to the playlist as well as a list of the songs in the video description. And
send us yours. Send us yours in the comments. If we see something that we like, we may mention it next time if we remember.
Yeah. And like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, visit our Patreon if you want.
Yes. If you would like to keep me from being in a wheelchair because my neck and my back are killing me doing warehouse work. So yes, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would both like to turn this into like a real gig. So yeah, if you like what we do and you want to like donate some money, go to our Patreon. But anyway, that's our show.
Yeah, I don't think that it played the video.